Hey, friends, welcome to our fun little webinar today. Appreciate you stopping by. I have been consuming coffee for the past 7 hours just in anticipation of this. Welcome. We've got a great webinar today talking all about fundraising, online engagement, and most of all, how the heck do you do this without an abundance mindset? Spoiler alert, you can't. But we're going to all the tips and tricks on how to get yourself right. We're going to build a framework today. We're going to tell some stories. We're going to talk about how you can fundraise more effectively using online tools and all of some good stuff. I'm excited for you to be here. I want to do a couple things before we introduce ourselves. First of all, I'm Patrick Kirby. I'm with Do Good Better Consulting. We have a super special fun guest that we're going to talk to today. I'm going to give her own introduction, so I'm just going to prep you for that. But right out of the gate, I have a couple of people to thank. One, I want to thank every.org for hosting us today for this actual platform. If you notice in the chat here, all of you online, right? Say hi. Tell me where you're from. I'd love to monitor that as we chat today. That's where you can ask all your questions. We will get to as many as possible. Ask them about whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Hi, Margaret. Hi, Francesca. Hi, everybody. Ask whatever you want. If something's confusing, if you've got an inspiring little quote you want to share with us, come on, say hi. It's going to be great. I need to thank the crew here. If we could have a shot of our friends back in this, yeah, friends, look at us. It's a professional group back here. Know what they're doing. These are my buddies from Mobile Pro. They help us put on every event that we do here at Do Good Better, Do Good Better Consulting, Do Good Better Events. And they're going to make us look super awesome and super professional. Not that we aren't, but like they make us look super great with lighting and making sure the hairs are all right. So thank you to the crew over here at Mobile Pro. We're going to have a blast today. We're also, if you've noticed, on our clock and our counter just above the chat box. We're doing something pretty cool today. We're also going to be raising money for the National Asian Pacific American Women's Forum. Not to start on a downer, but if you have been paying attention to the news, sort of a massive tragedy out of Atlanta yesterday, and it's well timing. So we're going to raise a bunch of money, raise a bunch of funds. So if it is in your heart to do so today, click on that donate button. Our friends at every.org have some matching gifts for you as well. So we want to make sure that we're doing some good while learning about some good today. So click all fun and share that page too. If you're on every.org, you know that this is kind of a cool social platform, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But leverage as much as you can, share away, donate as much and as generously as you possibly can. Let's raise a boatload of money, shall we? I would like to introduce my co-host today. Have you ever met somebody and you know within like the first 13 seconds that they're like the greatest person ever and you just want to be super best friends with them? That is today's case with Sabrina Pourmand Stuntz. She's with every.org, and I will give you this. I don't have a lot of super do-gooding besties, but I'm going to make Sabrina one of them. Sabrina, welcome to our webinar. How are you?
Hi. Well, I feel amazing now. That was like the kindest introduction I've ever received.
It is like there are few people that you just jive with out of the gate. You are one of them, and that's why this makes this so fun today, and I'm so excited to talk to you. So excited to teach everybody and sort of give really some perspective on fundraising. If you're a small and medium-sized nonprofit, life is overwhelming in general. Yeah. And I'm just so excited to get to share sort of enthusiasm, bottle up enthusiasm, and then shake it up like a pop bottle and then explode everywhere today, because this is going to be fantastic. For those of you who do not know who Sabrina is, I was going to read your bio, and that would have been awkward and boring. So I would love you to just sort of who you are, what you do, how you got here, for everybody to just get to know you a little bit. Floor is yours. I don't want to talk anymore. You're awesome. I'm gonna have coffee and I'm gonna listen to you.
I got myself. You enjoy that coffee. Hi, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm in California at the moment, so I guess we'll start there. I'm a California girl. Grew up in the Silicon Valley, and my career in social impact was really shaped by being a humanitarian aid worker. So I spent a number of years in Haiti, on the border of Syria, and a number of other crises around the globe, working as an emergency responder with World Vision International. And I think I cut my teeth there, working with big dollars, working in an aid and development system that was the one that we have, but maybe not the one that I wanted to be a part of. And I learned a lot about what it takes to manage institutional dollars, government aid. But I had also spent some time working for Habitat for Humanity here in California. And that was an experience that showed me that small nonprofits and large nonprofits actually have a lot of the same challenges. But of course, when you're a small to medium-sized nonprofit, you don't have the marketing resources, and you don't have maybe the tech support that some of the larger nonprofits do. And yet what we're doing was equally as important and equally as necessary. So what do we do about it, right? If these are the institutions that are really the backbone of our community, I discovered a love for wanting to be a part of those community organizations. What probably maybe most folks know of me is that I spent 4 years running Charity Water's global fundraising team. So, if you think about like an accelerant for your career, that was the accelerant for my career. It was a trial by fire. I spent 4 years in New York. I helped, I led the establishment of our UK incorporation. So if anybody needs to globalize, I can empathize with you. It was not fun, but it was really exciting. After that, I decided that I wanted to design my career a little differently, spending 70 and 80 hours working. I'm sure many of you guys have experienced that. Traveling all over the globe, which was exciting, but also hard maybe on my personal life. My husband and I decided to have a baby. And so I started my own advisory firm where I got to select the folks who I think are really taking ideas that I think can both create systems change and can scale. And how could I take my growth, revenue, fundraising experience and help those folks meet audacious goals? So that's what I've been doing the past couple of years. I've been working with clients like African Leadership, News Story, Every.org, and then I get to meet folks like Patrick and learn more about what organizations of all sizes need, right? From the ones that are out there, like the Charity Waters, who have a huge volume of donors so they can A/B test and experiment, to the smaller organizations, like one of my clients, Team for Tech, which is an incredible organization. What can they do? And actually, Every.org has been an amazing solution in many ways, because the learnings that Every.org is creating for all of the fundraising and nonprofit sector can be applied to organizations of all sizes. So that's a little bit about me, but ultimately my mission in life is to move capital to organizations and ideas that are changing the world. So I think a lot of you probably share that mission.
That's a fact. So again, this is why I get to wake up today and got super excited, is because I get to chat with you about some of these massive ideas. For those of you who don't know, I'm Patrick Kirby. I am the founder of Do Good Better Consulting. We're a firm that helps small, medium-sized nonprofits raise money. I wrote a book, shameless plug, I'm going to do it anyway, called Fundraiseawesomer. And it's sort of a framework that we're going to talk a little bit about. The framework we're going to talk about today on how you can actually execute some of these things. I think it's fun and super hilarious, but my ambition is to literally help as many small, medium-sized nonprofits as possible. So when you're logging on today, you've got some questions on like, hey, how do we do some of these big things that Sabrina's talking about? Well, we're going to show you, and we're going to actually apply it in a couple of different ways. One of the things, let me share an agenda real quick with you today. So we got 90 minutes together. We're going to go over kind of real big elephant in the room about sort of small nonprofits but big abundance mindset. We're going to talk about the frameworks and how you actually do that. Probably going to tell a whole bunch of stories, which is my favorite part of this entire thing. We're going to share with some tech and tools for you, namely sort of every.org, how you can leverage this now system that you're in, watching this from, what you're going to do. And then we're going to answer questions that you have throughout the day. So jot those questions down, type them in the chat. If you want to know anything about everything, sounds great. I spent 15, 16 years as a professional fundraiser in organizations of all sizes and shapes. So we're going to combine Sabrina's and I's powers today, and we're going to help as many nonprofits as possible. Sabrina, one of the things that I wanted to kind of start off with is this giant elephant in the room here. Let me just go back here because I missed this as a slide, and I think you just need to appreciate the fact that I got Lionel Richie into a slide deck today. That's just for you.
Can we talk about that we are soulmates? Because you know what my current favorite quote is?
Please tell me.
When you win, you win, and when you lose, you learn. Lionel Richie.
Boy, I just need to take a moment there. That's good. I love it.
Got that from American Idol, if anybody was wondering the source.
I love it. So elephant in the room that I want to talk about today, and this kind of just frames out the entire day that we're going to talk about, is small and medium-sized nonprofits have an abundance mindset issue. I think a lot of organizations are wrapped up in scarcity. This is my opinion. I want to have a conversation with kind of everybody in chat about this. But if you're looking at large organizations and you're looking at the size of yours and the amount of impact that you think you're making compared to others, we can get in our brains about a lot of this stuff. And I think we need to start there, sort of starting from ground zero of you need to think big, and it's okay if you don't have $1 billion or 28 staff members, you can still make a difference. Am I off on this, Sabrina, or am I on to something, or am I on something that's not caffeine when it comes to the idea of abundance in these small, medium-sized nonprofit brains?
You're absolutely onto something. And here's what I want to do. I want to first say that I think like humanity suffers from an abundance mindset challenge, right? That so many of us as people, we hold on to negativity and scarcity. And then when you get into an environment like a small nonprofit where you're doing something so important and your resources are lean, it just exacerbates that fear. So, first of all, I think it's partially like the way that humans are sort of wired. So I want to say it's okay. And there's another path forward, right? And there's another way to think about life. And there's another way to think about our work. And sometimes it's easier to think about it in work than it is about our life, right? Because it's personal, but a little less personal. So if we can practice not toxic positivity, right? Not toxic positivity, but just this idea that what you're doing is so important and that anybody who has the chance to speak with you about the mission that you are representing, shed that light, be the light. Know that if you put the message out there enough, actually things will come back to you. And with that abundance mindset, I think, many of us can be freed from some of the really weighty shackles that are on us in our work.
I think one of the things that I love that you brought that up, because I think one of the really important things that we need to remind ourselves as nonprofit leaders is that we do good work. And we forget that sometimes because we've got 10,000 things we're trying to do, and we forget because we're bogged down with paperwork or spreadsheets or board meetings or board reports or whatever thing that we're working on. We forget that why we started working at these nonprofits or forming these nonprofits or doing our due diligence to talk to as many people as possible, we forget how freaking amazing we are. And that's number one on the list of get it through your brains that what you do matters and the impact that you have on your community matters. And that's the first step in this sort of abundance sort of brain shift that you need to have in order to fundraise more effectively, especially online.
Absolutely. I think what you just said really goes back to, I don't know how many memories. And I'm sure so many of those who are tuning in right now have experienced this, where when you tell people what you do, people go, wow, I wish I did that too. And if that tells you anything
Yes.
about what other people are dealing with in their work life, right?
Yes.
It reminds me, gosh, I get to do something that's about passion and purpose every single day. Doesn't mean it's not hard. It doesn't mean what you're doing isn't hard or isn't like riddled with some really crappy stuff that you have to deal with sometimes. But you get to wake up and spread passion and purpose on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
And so if that can kind of be a reminder, a mantra, I wonder what that can open up for people, as they move into fundraising, or as they move into leading their teams, as they move into dealing with their board. It can have a ripple effect that I know for me, just making it a conscious effort to remind myself of that has made all the difference, I think, in fundraising, but just like generally in my mindset when work gets hard.
I found this quote for us today while we were just sort of like working through this, and it's the key to abundance is meeting limited circumstances with unlimited thoughts. So if you're a small, medium-sized nonprofit, your limited circumstances might be budget, it might be time, it might be resources of people, right? But your audacity to think through what you could do if that was not an issue makes you a more viable and more interesting individual or group to support than maybe some of the larger ones, because think about if you're a donor. If you're a donor and you want to make maximum impact in the community, right? You could give an amount of dollars to a nebulous organization on a global scale, right? Or you could go into your local nonprofit, local regional nonprofit, donate there, and your impact is now 4, 5, 10 times as valuable because it's boots on the ground, no red tape through anything, and all of a sudden you get to see your resources used immediately for maximum impact. And so I think if you're a small nonprofit, if you're a medium-sized nonprofit, thinking about how you are only limited by the amount of work and good you want to do in the community, start there. And then that becomes the story that you begin to tell your donors and your supporters is like, you're going to do this with the amount of resources that we have.
Like, for the lack of a better term, we need to drink our own Kool-Aid.
Yes.
And sometimes I'm not entirely sure that we remind ourselves of exactly what you just said, right? Which is, what is it that we are doing in our community that no one else is doing? And when we go to others and say, do you want to do something that absolutely doesn't change just the world? It changes this person's life in your backyard and therefore changes your community. Like, how much do you actually internalize that and then feel great about it? And I do think it's a little bit like meditative, right? Like, we're going to get into your framework, but I think your framework is key in this. Being able to celebrate what we do in our work is vital, because you have to internalize it so that when it comes out, it's authentic and enthusiastic, right? But I think sometimes we just, especially in fundraising and in online fundraising, we're thinking about like, how do we get that open click? How do we, right, get somebody to donate? Well, we get someone to donate when the message is authentic. So have you really spent any time internalizing your message as of late, or have you just been on the hamster wheel?
Right. And do you believe it? And you don't have to, and again, I think there's a difference between being enthusiastic about your mission and you're faking it till you make it, and really truly believing what you do. And that mindset you can fake with enthusiasm. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna drink a bunch of coffee and I'm gonna be super excited about it at a coffee shop today, or in a Zoom meeting, or whatever you wanna do. If you don't believe it, because you don't spend time thinking about it, how are you going to sort of express to your biggest and best and brightest supporters on what big audacious goals you want to reach? Makes no sense. Like, you can't, people have a BS detector a little bit more sharp than you're giving them credit for, and they'll pick up on like, yeah, I mean, you're okay, you're excited about it, but there's nothing behind that particular enthusiasm. There's no belief that you're actually doing good things, and not taking the time to think about what big, amazing things you could do, or that you think you're too small to make a difference. People can see that and they can sense it, and like, That's a bad deal.
I love that quote that you get, which was, if we could ask ourselves, are we limiting our thoughts unnecessarily when we're feeling tight, when we're feeling nervous about whether you're fundraising online and you're worried about this email going out, or whether you're in a meeting with someone and you're hoping to make an ask? Like, are you limiting yourself in your thoughts? And I hadn't actually considered that, but I definitely always try to put myself in the mindset of, whenever I'm about to hit send on something, I remind myself I'm about to invite someone to do something special. Like, remind myself. I know sometimes it's hard, but hey, without what you're doing today, that person doesn't have an opportunity to make impact.
That's a wonderful setup, yeah, and that's a wonderful setup to kind of what we're going to talk about next. So this is, the meat and potatoes, kind of why you're here today is, let's build a framework together that everybody here can take and today start mapping out what you're going to do to use an abundance framework in your brain and start fundraising more effectively, specifically online, but not necessarily. As the country kind of opens up, we're going to be able to do this in person again, thank God. But what can you do online? What things can you use in order to build? Okay, so minute shameless plug, and this is where we're drawing all this stuff from. I wrote a book. It's called Fundraiseawesomer. It has this as a framework on how to sort of bring your brain together about what I can do every single day of the week to move the needle forward for your fundraising and your nonprofit organization. And this is kind of how it works, okay? I've called it the 5-day fundraising framework because I'm not a marketing genius. It's just stuck. Like 5 days, and every day you do something, right? So
maybe you are.
No, you're kind. But this is what it is. So Mondays are for planning, Tuesdays are for doing, Wednesdays are for documenting, Thursdays are for celebrating, and Fridays are for appreciating. I think as nonprofits, especially in the small and medium size, where we get bogged down with a billion things, we don't prioritize our week, and we don't know where to start. So if you are confused, if you are concerned, if there's nowhere to start in your week, reference this. And we're going to go through every one of these days, and we're going to talk about what you can do with an abundance mindset every single day to plan and do and document and celebrate and appreciate. And once you have this in your brain, it's my belief, after working with countless nonprofits, that this is a system that you can implement to raise more money and raise more awareness and get more involvement in your supporters and your donors. And at least at the end of the week, you can feel like you accomplished a big chunk of bonding with your nonprofits or your supporters or your nonprofit. And so you can kind of rest through the week and go, like, okay, I did something, we moved the needle forward, and we're awesome. Sound good?
And can I plug this? I want to plug this too.
I will.
Because, you know, let me plug this. I met Patrick 2 weeks ago. And, you know, now he's my work husband. So
yeah, it's
been amazing.
These are facts.
So this is not just for the small or medium-sized nonprofit. This is for anybody who needs a refresh in how to approach your fundraising. I mean, I read this book. I ate it up. Nom, 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 nom. and then I immediately went into a training and I brought it to News Story, because all of us, no matter what level of organization, right, size, whatnot, we're constantly being bombarded with other activities that people are telling you are both urgent and important. But at the end of the day, the reason why there's an 18-month turnaround in fundraising professionals is because no matter what, you've got a number that you're looking at every quarter and every year. And if you don't hit that number, your organization falls apart, people don't get paid, there are no programs. I mean, it's a huge amount of stress. We get it. And this is actually a way to decrease that stress. And just to say, oh, right, I'm sorry, boss. I know you want me to do that other thing, but if I don't plan today, or if I don't actually do, and I don't document, and I don't celebrate, and I don't appreciate, our work does not get done well. It doesn't become revenue that's sustainable. So this is like the Holy Grail. Let's do this together.
Yes, let's piece this together. Yes. So that's what we're gonna do today. So we're gonna piece this together. So in the chat box, as you're planning around, grab a piece of paper. This is what your roadmap is going to look like at the end of the day. We're going to have an entire week of things that you're going to do and how you're going to wrap your brain around what the next step is. All right. So day one, it's Monday. We plan. The reason we plan is that in order to prioritize the things we have to do so that we can have time to do the things we want to do, which is have better relationships with your donors, is you gotta plan your week. And if you do one thing, it is prioritizing the things you need to get done. And that's either meeting a donor, that's either getting a conversation started, it's either making an ask. What are those things you need to plan? I think, though, we need to start with the idea of planning abundance, right? So how do we plan with the idea of abundance? If you are a small nonprofit and you're saying, okay, well, I'd like to plan to meet with these 10 CEOs, okay, well, maybe that's not necessarily going to get you in the right direction. Who in your circle can you plan with? Who can you execute? What is your low-hanging fruit? What is your one step that gets you from point A to point B so that you can cross it off your list and feel like you're moving forward every single day? What do we need to do to plan abundance? I feel like we could spend an entire conversation on just this topic alone, but we got a whole framework to work out today, so we'll come back and we'll do more of this later. But we need a plan of abundance. How do we plan? Sabrina, help me plan for abundance.
Yeah. Okay. So you had just said, I mean, one of the things that's really tough, right, is when you look at your list of people that, you know, either are on your email list or that you're wanting to eventually maybe get a high net worth gift from, a major gift from. Sometimes we're like, the list needs to be bigger, right? And you've created your list and you said, okay, these are the top folks that I need to communicate with, and you realize, shucks, I've reached out to them. People haven't responded yet. It's the creativity piece. It's the creativity that comes into this, right? When I think about planning, then where could I go to go talk about what I'm doing in a new environment, right? Could I reach out to the local Rotary Club? Could I reach out to local schools and set up some time to go and speak to those communities? Because when we get to a point where maybe our prospect list is limited, it's all about the connections. Who are those people who can become connectors for us, like our volunteers? Can we go back to our board? But it takes some thinking in that space of planning. And rather than saying, oh no, what do I do? My list isn't large enough. It's, I have got a limitless audience if I just go and think about what it takes to go and approach those folks.
In order to gain new friends or new supporters or new donors, you got to tell your story to as many people as possible. If you don't know where to start to tell that story, who are you connected with, right? So build your map, build your connections list, and we'll talk about this, kind of how you map this out a little bit later. But you have to plan for that. You cannot just arbitrarily show up and have a conversation. Find your Rotary clubs. Find your groups and organizations to have conversations. Call them. Say, hey, I'd love to speak to you about this organization that I'm attached to that I think you'd really be in love with if you knew their story. I'd love to come in and spend 20 minutes of time talking about it. I'd love to then answer any questions you might have about it. What dates do you have open? And all of a sudden, there's one conversation you have over the phone turns into 20 people sitting around having lunch, waiting for you to tell this amazing story about what impact you make in your community. You went from 0 to 1 to 20 people in a snap because you went out and presented. But you have to plan ahead in order to get that done. You can't just arbitrarily just say you're going to do it.
Confident that it's okay for you to go and cold call or email, right, when you've made that roadmap. It's that abundance mindset too, right? The planning plus abundance equals success.
Yep.
And you know, this is going to, you can't do it all behind a computer screen. And right, and I say that with love for, you know, Gen Z, but sometimes, especially with those who are able to give, right, we do have to pick up the phone and call, you know, or you send an email and then you follow up with a phone call, right, because they didn't call you back or they didn't email you back. These are things that when we go through the planning stages, the plan can look beautiful, But then when we get to doing, some of the doing has to be a bit more persistent than maybe, what maybe some of the online marketing folks want you to believe.
Yeah.
It takes more.
What they don't want to let you know is that these supercomputers in your back pocket were originally, and this is going to shock a couple of people, originally to call people. It's amazing. I know it's not for your Instagram post and to hate like everything on Twitter. It's like it was used to connect with people over the phone. And here's an interesting thing from a planning perspective, right? So if you're a small nonprofit and you don't think that you're going to get the phone call or nobody's going to pick up the other end of the phone call, now is the best time to do so because nobody expects it. Right? Everybody expects to get an email. Everybody gets expected to get it like a whatever instant messenger or drop, sliding into somebody's DMs. That's what they expect. What they don't expect is, hey, Sabrina, my name is Patrick. I'm with Charity Water. I just wanted to touch base with you. I have no idea what you do as a business, but I'm curious to see who you support, what organizations that you are supporters of. Curious to see if you'd like to be interested in what we do. They're not going to hang up on you. Nobody is that rude anymore. And they're so curious about a phone call because they're like, hello? Are you checking on my car warranty or are you an actual human? Like, that's an amazing thing right now. So if you are, yeah.
I mean, leaving a message, which also apparently is not a thing anymore. I mean, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm almost 40, so I realize, but I do know that, okay, let's say they don't pick up. You leave a message, right? That says, hey, I'm Sabrina from Charity Water. I'm calling because I've heard amazing things about you and what you do in the community. And I wanted to reach out because I wanted to tell you a little bit about our work and see if you might be interested. Give me a buzz back if you have some time.
Yep.
I mean, no skin off my back. And at least I know I'm really going the distance for my work in a way that, also now puts your organization's name in their consciousness. They're gonna listen to the message. So even if, let's say, they don't call you back, you've actually taken a step to help people learn about you, because now when they hear about you again, it'll be a trigger from, the message that you left. These are all good things. All these touch points that are planned are good things.
Yeah. And again, you made a great point, is that it's going to be in the back of somebody's head going, hey, you know what? Where did I hear Pat or Super? Like, what name did I feel? Now they're going to be curious. And now what you've done is you've planned ahead and you've set the table for them to answer the phone the next time or answer an email when they see it come in, because you've already sort of done a lot of the groundwork and foundational things about planning. Also, if you are emailing everybody and saying, hey, I'd like to set up a meeting, and you have big, hairy, audacious goals of the individual or businesses that you want to get in front of, picking up the phone to confirm that, or picking up the phone to say, hey, I know that we've got a planned meeting next week. I just want to let you know how excited I am to touch base. That's another touch point that makes zero financial asks. And we'll get into this next topic, because I think it's a good transition of what to ask for and what to do. Everything that you talk about regarding your nonprofit does not have to be about money. It doesn't have to be about money. It doesn't. And I think that's what shocks people about the fundraising world, is that you can actually do just as much good not making an ask for money and building a better relationship than you would always saying handout, transaction.
Absolutely. I mean, when we think about planning, I think one of the key parts of planning, okay, the ultimate goal that you are probably trying to achieve with the folks on your list, right? But it should be about lifetime value, not just the fiscal ask. And when we think about lifetime value, that takes engagement. So what are your menu of opportunities for engagement that are relevant to your organization and also interesting to the people that you're going to be talking to, so that when you get to a point where you get to meet with them, if you're not ready to make the financial ask, what can you ask them to do?
Yes.
And I think that's the piece where I know we're segueing into doing, but the key here is there's a lot you can do in a conversation that does not equal, may I please have you write me a check?
Yes. Yes.
And that step of getting them engaged is the step to getting them to give you a check, but also is a step to engaging them for a lifetime.
Yeah, it's so true. Okay, so you've done a wonderful job transitioning from point A to point B, right? So we spend Mondays planning. Spend 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 2 hours, whatever the case may be, spend it planning your week. Who are the people you want to get a hold of? Who are the meetings you need to have? And what are you doing to move the needle forward? That you need to get done by Friday, right? That is your planning. Your next step is doing. You execute something, right? You cannot plan the plan for the plan to plan the plan for the plan's sake, because you will be stuck on that hamster wheel like you referred to forever. And this is a scary step. This is a confusing step to a lot of people, especially if you don't have that menu of options. But you need to wrap your head around the idea that you are setting up the table to match people's loves and adorations of what they have in their heart with your organization and what they can do to make maximum impact. You're inviting them to the table. You're not strong-arming anybody. You are inviting them to the table in order to make maximum impact, but you have to do. One of the first steps that we got to get away from is nobody wants me to ask and nobody wants to give us money. I think this is a massive headache that people have in the back of their brains, especially small, medium-sized nonprofits that think, oh, well, they can go give to this group instead of us. No. Blah, blah, blah. This drives me nuts. How do we reset our brains with the idea that abundance is everywhere if we make an ask in the first place? I'm so excited, my table's jiggly. That's how excited I am for caffeine with this thing.
Okay, so the first thing, it's like, that makes me so sad to hear, right? That anybody would internalize this concept that people don't want to give to their organization, right? Like, if you work at your organization and you think it's worthy, there are so many people that believe the same thing. Right? Like, we're not alone in this world. And I think it's so important to talk to someone if that's actually how you feel. Because sometimes we just need a little bit of affirmation. Like, Patrick, you introduce yourself and I introduce myself. But sometimes it's actually really nice to hear how other people introduce you, right? Because you're like, oh, that's not how I describe myself, but that feels great. That feels great. Yeah. If you get into a rut when you're doing, and you're feeling anxious, I would call up one of your board members. I would call up somebody who has been a long-term supporter, and I would ask them, why do you love what we do? Just remind yourself, when you get to that place of negativity, ask for some help, because there's no reason you should be in that place. That's more about the fact that you've got so much pressure on you. You just can't see beyond the tip of your nose because you're doing too much, right? Yeah. So where do you have those little moments of being able to just take a step back and go to the people who believe in you? And if you're a startup social impact entrepreneur and you don't have that person, go to a Facebook page that has, that's the coolest thing, right? So now I'm saying digital age is great, right? I know I kind of dumped on it a second ago, but this is where we do have communities of practice who are there to support you. Yeah. And you can go and ask them for some help in thinking about why what you're doing is so worthwhile. If you need a little bit of that affirmation.
This is, okay, so we're going to spend a lot of time on doing, we're going to spend a lot of time on documenting, because these two steps back to back on doing and documenting super important in this framework. One of the things that you can engage your potential supporters or supporters without asking them for cash are a couple of things. And this is where the idea of abundance goes like exponentially super, right? You're going to go supernova with some of these things. And Jennifer in the chat asked the same thing, which is, what are some of the ways we can engage people besides asking for a financial donation? That is such a great question, Jennifer. We're going to answer that too in a couple of ways. But one, you can ask somebody for a gift. If they've never asked you for a gift, great. Ask them for a small one, fine. If you know they're ready to make an ask, or they're ready to make a gift, ask them for the same gift that they made last year. If they're a former donor, great. If you think you're getting the sign, you're getting the vibes, right? You're like, oh, okay, this is kind of good. Ask for more. Great. You can also ask for a next meeting, and you can also ask for a new name within their network to introduce you to. Those are just two of the examples. We'll give a couple other ones. But if you get the feeling guttural in the sense that, okay, this person's lost their job, they are giving to somebody else, this is not the right time, they seem distracted, hey, can we meet again? I'd like to follow up with whatever great things that we're going to do. I'd love to ask for a next meeting or whatever, set up a next time we can meet. Great ask. Also, who else do you know that would be moved as well as you have been with our organization within your circle? Who can you go? You said something yesterday when we touched base about this currency that's different than financial. And you put it as a currency of abundance. And if you write down something within this section here when you're taking notes and listening to this in the audience, write down your currency of abundance and underline it and start taking notes now. Because Sabrina's going to walk you through this, and it's just brilliant, and I love this so much. I'm just going to let you talk, and I'm going to sit here like this dreamingly about why I didn't come up with this in the first place. I'm mad about it. I'm agreeing with envy occasionally, and this is one of them, where let's talk about your currency of abundance. Things you can ask folks for that do not have anything tied to the size of their checkbook.
Yes. Okay, so I can't take credit for this concept. This is a concept that a friend named Emily Vogelzang taught me about 5 years ago. And what we were discussing at the time was the fact that it is challenging to ask people for money over and over and over and over again. And so what she basically said was, right, in Western culture, we really value this currency of money, right? Money in abundance, right? That's something that unfortunately our society we live at the altar of. But there are a lot of different currencies of generosity and abundance, power, influence, time, connections, hospitality. So when you think about not just what you could ask other people for when you're in a meeting, but what you could do for them, because I think this is where things get easier. When I walk into a meeting, and if the only thing I'm thinking about is I need to ask them for money, versus this is a person who there's a value exchange that can happen here. And I don't mean a transaction, I mean a value exchange. When I get to know you and I hear what matters to you, I can think about what kind of currency of abundance that I could share with this person. Maybe I've heard that they're really interested in another cause, a cause that has nothing to do with mine, but I know a great organization that's doing good work. The first thing that I do when I go home is I introduce them to that organization.
Yes.
There is enough abundance mindset. There is enough out there for all of them. They're not going to just ignore you and never give to you just because you've introduced them to another organization. They're going to remember that you were the person that shared your connection, which then allows me to ask them for something. I could ask them for something anyways, but don't I now feel better that I'm not the only one ever asking them for something because I've been able to provide something that has meaning and value? So this concept of what are the things that you feel like you can bring to the table that, maybe you can't give money the way that you're asking these folks for, but you can give other things. You can give them an opportunity to volunteer. You can give them an opportunity to host a dinner for you and introduce you to other folks. You could ask them, hey, we have an amazing video and presentation. Do you know anywhere where maybe we could go and show this video and do our presentation to spread our message? When you think about those menu of options, one is if you think about it as an invitation to get involved and not an ask, that helps change your mindset too. I'm inviting you to become a part of what we're doing, and we're really excited about having someone like you in our network. That changes things, right? Than being like kind of hand in cap. I think that like the other thing that has really made a difference for me over the years is this idea, like when I go to the table, I have 5 questions that help me make me less nervous about a meeting. So a lot of times when you get into the doing and you actually get a meeting, maybe you're intimidated by who's at the table. Maybe you're just kind of nervous and it's hard to get to know someone new. Can you walk into your meeting with a number of questions that help break the ice? One of them for me is always like, I'm so grateful that you took this meeting today. Can you tell me why? You could be doing anything else right now. You could be doing anything else, but you decided to talk to me about this cause. Tell me a little bit about what drives that. Another one is, obviously you took this meeting knowing that one of the things that we need as an organization, is funding. So where did your philanthropic journey start? Did it start in childhood? How did you learn that this was something that was important to you? Just a couple of those questions that you have in your back pocket, it really makes doing easier. And then when you have a menu of options that you're going to ask them to participate in, plus you have ideas around what you could do for them, it changes the game entirely.
And how unexpected is that? This is the best part about this whole process, is that any donor that you meet, any person you pick up the phone with, has an expectation you're going to ask them for money and money only. They don't expect you to give anything. They don't expect you to make connections. They don't expect you to be creative in your approach. They expect you to be cold call, cold ask, please give me money, please. You are now shifting completely, and now they're thinking different, like, well, if this person is not only concerned with financial gifts, and they're coming and offering to be connected with somebody that I really would enjoy connecting with, or doing something that's different or whatever, what other things do they have up their sleeves that is not fundraising related? And guess what? They're going to pick up the phone the next time because they're curious, because you've asked them for something randomly different than everything else.
Absolutely. You become a little bit different than the pool of people that they hear from all the time, too. Right? I mean, there is this thing around differentiation, and right, like your cause might be relevant to them, but you might not have differentiated yourself from everybody else who asks them money. So they might give more money to another cause because that other person was sort of more engaging and more interesting. And I think, we often talk about relationship building, but in this doing process, when you're in a relationship, do you just take? No, right? Like, that makes you like a narcissist, right? And so when we're thinking about a fundraising relationship, it's the same thing, right? There's an exchange of values, and there's an exchange of ideas, and there's an exchange of what's important to each other. And so don't we in a relationship want to help one another grow and get there? And people can tell if you're just after one thing, and right. And when you're like, I got to get to an ask by the end of this meeting. Some of the asks, someone said, what are the menu of options? I kind of briefly went through them, but I kind of want to go back over them. One of them is, hey, do you want to come see our work? That's an ask. And by the way, if there's anything that can lead you closer to getting a gift, if you have that potential, you don't always have the potential, right? To be able to bring someone to your work. I know we don't want to be exploitative. I know sometimes we're working internationally. So do you have a video or a story or an article they can read? Hey, I'd love for you to read this, or I'd love for you to watch this if you can't get them to come to see the work. That ask gets you so much closer to being able to make a financial ask. So there's one menu.
And that doesn't cost any money. This is the other thing too. That does not cost you any money. Sending them an article or sending them some sort of thing that you've written or you've posted, or a link to something else that matches what you do, does not cost you a thing. You don't have to buy them a dinner. You don't have to buy them a jet plane out to whatever country that you're working with. You don't have to do that. It costs you $0. And so when you're thinking about abundance mindset, this is the tactic that large organizations do. It might have a lot of bells and whistles on it, but they don't care about the bells and whistles. They want to see if it matters to them, first of all. And how do they do that? Well, here's a video, here's a clip, here's a news story, here's what we did that gets you closer to if they really like or love what you do. And if they do, all of a sudden, now you can start talking about how they can help. Cost you $0.
Listen, I mean, I know that there's a lot of worthy conversation out there around effective altruism, around counterfactual impact. And sometimes we as small nonprofits don't have the skinny on being identified as one of those organizations. But the fact of the matter is people give to their human experience. They give to what they emotionally connect with. With all those organizations out there who are basically touting 10, 20, 30 organizations that are doing amazing work around the world, because when you give $1, it's 100x, there's a very small percentage that are actually getting those dollars. Your message to those folks and their human experience and making it relevant based on something you heard means something to people. It does. So when I come back to that concept of what are the 5 questions that you have in your back pocket, one of the things, you said, Patrick, in your book, one of my favorite quotes is, don't ask for a gift until you know your donor's dog's name. Do you know his or her dog's name? Do you know their dog's name? Then maybe you're ready to ask a gift. It's,
yes.
My questions are similar to that. Have I gotten to the fact that, this particular person whom I never met before, when I asked them what's their philanthropic journey, they told me their mother used to give $20 a month to, sponsor a child, and their mother was a house cleaner. So they didn't really have that much, but she waited for that letter every single month, and then she read it to her boys to tell them it can always be worse, and we're so lucky to have one another. That set him on an incredible philanthropic journey that now, where he was as a tech entrepreneur, right, I'm able to get him to a $60,000 gift. Me knowing that his mother was a key component in his giving, that's an intimate conversation that, let's be clear, those folks are not having with other people.
Nope.
When whomever you're sitting across the table from, they're 12 hours a day at work. They're not digging in to what motivates them personally, to their human experience. They don't get to talk about those memories from their childhood that have changed them. You do. And that is something that I think we forget. It's a very powerful experience.
One of the things that you can also do to give them that experience and to almost experience you as a solicitor or a fundraiser is the test ask. So hypothetically, you're a small nonprofit. Hypothetically, you're somebody who doesn't really feel comfortable with making an ask or making a do or whatever. You don't, I feel nervous about this. Ask some of your best supporters or board members or somebody who's been a champion of your organization and call them up and say, hey, listen, I don't feel really comfortable going out in the field yet, so I would like to practice my pitch and these 3 or 4 things that we're fundraising for on you.
Yes,
now, this is a real ask, sir or ma'am. This is a real ask. I'm totally going to make an ask. I'm expecting you to be engaged the way that somebody else would be. But more importantly, I'm looking for feedback on what this sounds like to somebody who would be solicited in the first place. So you do 2 things. One, you disarm the whole process of fundraising because it's a non-ask ask, right? And you're asking for their opinion on how you are doing. And if you are open to feedback on whether you are great or not, fantastic. Now they get to be a part of your process. And they'll probably either you rocked it and they're going to give you money because you nailed it, or you sucked and they're going to feel bad, which is fine. You can fundraise with guilt, that's fine. But more importantly, they're going to be engaged. And they're going to say, okay, well, this is how I would do this, or this is how I have been solicited before. This was meaningful to me. And now you've engaged them and say, who else would I be able to test this on? Or is there anybody in your circle that would like this as a pitch? Or what else do you have in store for us? And all of a sudden, you've opened up the doors. By doing, rather than just talking about making an ask in the first place. And that sort of brain power that you have in the back to saying, this is the abundance mindset that we have, that's picture perfect. And leads us to our next step, which is documenting.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorite things in the entire world to do is, I'm going to put that one in. Yeah, we're going to document all of our abundance. Okay, what connections did you make, and do they matter to the circle of abundance that you have already planned on in the first place? This is where you connect your dots. And I don't care if you have a fancy pants CRM system. I don't care if you have a cocktail napkin at a bar. Write down the things that you just had a conversation with these amazing donors and supporters on paper in some place that you can reference and start connection mapping. This is where your abundance circle grows exponentially. Documenting.
The reflection. We're so busy all the time.
Yes.
We convince ourselves that we're so busy all the time, and we don't take the space to think about, what did we hear yesterday? What did someone tell us? Who did they mention and why? How does it relate to other parts of my work? You have to take space. right? If I could go back to my time at Charity Water, right, I would have told myself, it doesn't matter. You have to put elbows out, and a couple hours a week, you have to go away and just be quiet and think about and write these things down and document and let it all percolate and sort of crystallize. But I didn't. I was just doing. And it, isn't great for the work, but it's also not great for yourself. Like you just always, again, feel like a hamster on a wheel versus give yourself a little bit of that time. The documenting piece, especially if you're doing well, one thing that I didn't say that I want to make really clear, whether we're in online fundraising or whether we're in major gifts fundraising or corporate fundraising, it's all about how many people you're talking to. Volume matters, right? I think a lot of the times we have this small list and people are just focused on it, but it's a numbers game. You have to give yourself more chances, right? So if you're doing it well, you have said, all right, these are the like 20 warm people I have, but here are the 40 kind of cold folks that I'm hoping to move to lukewarm and move to warm. When you get to that place where your list is 100, 200, 400, the documenting becomes ever more important because you're not going to be able to remember all this or make all the connections. So if you're doing it well, volume, document, then you actually have a better planning opportunity come Monday because you've connected the dots and been able to prioritize. Wow, I thought these 20 people were the most important folks. Now I have 40 people.
And those 20 people that you really had as a priority are maybe connected to the other 40 people that you have on the list. And now you can reference back to hey, I know that Steve, you work with Steve, which is really weird. I just talked with him last week. Great guy. His wife is fantastic.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah.
Everybody loves to hear that. Yeah. Everybody loves to, right?
Yes. And so
and you go back to your donor and you tell them.
Of course
you text it to them. You say to your prospect, hey, someone mentioned so-and-so, and so did you. Amazing. Yeah. Small world. Another great touch point.
One of the last years I was working at the Ann Carlson Center, we got an end-of-year bequest gift, right? So it was a distribution of a giant gift that came out of the blue. Out of the blue gift. We didn't know anything about this. It wasn't in any sort of deal. We looked back in our system, and the last piece of documentation we had was in 1986. And he gave $6 in 1986. I have no idea why. There was nothing. It was just guy gave $6. Passes away and leaves our organization $300,000.
Wow.
The two things we have now is $6 and $300,000. Imagine if there was somebody who took the time to call, cultivate, take notes, build a relationship, build rapport. It's one of those things that haunts me all the time. Of like,
what could have happened between 6 and 300?
What could have that been 900? Could it have been more? I mean, I know the distribution number was well into the 7 figures, and single guy, didn't have any kids, gave it away, but we were one of them. So at some point in time in 1985, or 1986, somebody had a conversation. He donated $6 and was fascinated by the organization enough to give a portion of their proceeds. This is why connection mapping is so critical. Who are you going back to build rapport with? Who are you connecting the dots with? Who are you setting the table up so that when you do your planning, you know exactly what they like, what they love, what they don't like, what they don't appreciate, what they really appreciate, and who they're connected to so you can build better relationships. This whole framework is to give you enough time during your week to build better rapport with people who can give you a ton of money. And if you don't have to go...
Can I plug that documenting time is also time to research things that they told you about that you don't know about?
Yes.
So if they told you something and they wanted to talk about some topic, right, that you just had never heard of before, and this happens, right? Like I've sat in interesting meetings with people who are exploring colonizing the moon, and I'm like, okay, that's time for me the next day when I'm documenting to go do a little bit of research. Is there something that actually I'm able to think about or learn? And then the next time I talk to them, I can actually say, oh, I read this article about that. And, and I don't have to pretend like I'm an expert, but I've actually gone and put a little bit of interest into what they said they care about. Because if I'm asking them to be interested in what I care about and my cause, hey, again, in this relationship building process, in that documenting time, you're also helping yourself learn more about the world, learn more about what your donors care about. So it's, and then you never know with that relationship mapping what comes of it. You got to take that extra time and do that work.
Yeah.
Can I say there's one other thing that I think this is the place for it? Mm-hmm. One of the main things, like when I think about that donor who gave you a $300,000 bequest and gave you $6, 20 years before, if we had a simple recurring monthly giving program that we're always talking to everyone about, that would have been solved. This is something small and medium-sized nonprofits are not doing enough. We will get to it when we talk about every.org. Yep. Every.org, a free platform that's helping people do this. Free. Listen, when you make an ask of even a major donor, you make sure they know about your monthly giving program. Yeah. I have never, ever had a major donor turn me down in putting $20 a month into the monthly giving program. If I said, listen, this is how we ensure our sustainability. It's how, the everyday donor engages with us. It's, we're always pumping out stories. It is a gateway drug to the major gift.
And they get instant feedback of, hey, thanks for your gift. You know it. You can go back to them and say, hey, this is what your gift did. Yes. This is your impact, whatever the case may be. And they're always reminded of that. And it's small enough that you don't have to worry about it. I'm so excited that you mentioned that, because we're going to have to wrap our brains around how we can help as many people as possible. Sign up for every.org and do this. And by the way, a side note, we're at like $900 of $1,000 raised for our National Asian Pacific American Women's Forum already, which is crazy. If we get to 1,000 in the next 20 minutes, I'm gonna dump another $100 in this just for me, and I'm gonna do that. So I'll match $100 if somebody donates $100.
I will too.
Let's do this. Let's raise money. That's gonna be great.
Let's do it.
But this is the power of making an ask, right? So you can leverage and you can connect. I know that you're gonna do that. I know I'm gonna do that. All of a sudden, there's some power. There's power behind this that we can connect the dots, make some asks together, and we'll get to that in a little bit. All right. So the documentation, really, really important. The other reason why you have to document is that you don't forget the important things that they said. I know we think we have superpowers as non-profiteers. We do. We're amazing individuals, and we're fantastic. I get it. If we forget the important little things, or if we remember the important little things, that is another differentiator between you and any other large entity that doesn't have the time, energy, or effort that put into that conversation. If you want to have an abundance mindset, if you want to differentiate yourself between everybody who you are, quote, competitors with, right? Do the little things and remember the little things through your documentation process that then says, wow, I don't remember talking about that, or hey, I can't believe you remembered that. Think about if you were in a normal conversation with somebody and you remember that they had a job interview, or they were going through some challenging times, or they were traveling, or they were going to see their sister who wasn't. Hey, how are you doing? How's the family doing? A small note. You're not making an ask. You're just making small talk and just checking in on them. That means something to people.
So I'm a big fan of Robert Cialdini. I'm sure many folks have read Persuasion, right? It's really about the psychology of sales. One of the things that, we can relay it back to what we do, especially right now, given that we can't be meeting in person, is how do you actually get to a place where you're engaging with your donor base like you're engaging with somebody who's a true friend? So Cialdini would say when he would go and do door-to-door sales, he would get people to invite them in and allow him to use their bathroom, because you only let friends and family use your bathroom. You don't let randos use your bathroom. So suddenly he goes from your salesman that you don't know door to door to somebody who's used your bathroom. That's a friend and family thing. What you just said with when you touch base with someone, if somebody told you about, what's going on in their family, if you send them a note or a text that says, I'm just checking in on you, how are things going? You've totally moved from salesman to friend.
Yep.
And you only can do that if you remember and you've documented.
One of the things that, and that's a wonderful transition to doing something different and outside of the box and thinking differently about your interactions with your donors is spending time to celebrate. So we have in the framework, Thursdays are for celebrating. This is for two parts. We celebrate our wins. We talked about this out of the top of this presentation. We celebrate our wins, because if we don't, we forget why we do this in the first place. It sucks. The other reason we celebrate our wins is because donors want to be a part of winning teams. They want to help us get over the top. They move the needle. This is also a place to unexpectedly celebrate wins that have nothing to do with your organization and separates you even further from other people who are in transaction mode, where you're in transformative relationship building mode. For example, if I knew that you just got done with an amazing training with a group of folks the other day, and I said, hey, I wanted to congratulate you on your trip and your presentation training. It seemed to have a remarkable positive effect on that organization. I just want to give you kudos for this. I have no intent of getting anything out of it. I have no ulterior motive other than, as somebody who genuinely cares about another human, celebrating their victories and wins puts you on that, dare I say, bathroom buddy list of people that you just share a better intimate relationship with. And now they pick up the phone or they'll answer an email because you are completely talking about or celebrating with something that has nothing to do with a financial gift or an ask.
Abundance, generosity, right? What you just said is, okay, what's going on in your life, or what did you do? And I'm taking a moment of my day to celebrate it, to acknowledge it. We all need and love that, right? That feels amazing. And whether it's with a colleague, in your book, I think one of the things that I loved was this concept of within your own organization. Are you really celebrating what's happening? Because a lot of times, right, especially when we're thinking about what's happening programmatically and what's happening from a fundraising perspective, we might be able to say, we raised $100,000 today, and maybe it gets celebrated, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I think one of the things that makes, I know for me, my work more exciting is when I really get into the details of what we've done on a programmatic side that we can be proud of. And then I take time to celebrate it. I take time to reflect on, oh my gosh, the impact that has had. I mean, okay, one of the things, as an example, is right now at every.org, where we've partnered with an organization called Give Black. It's the first ever database of Black-led nonprofits. Black-led nonprofits only receive less than 3% of all philanthropic dollars in the United States. And yet, Black folks are closer to the problems that we're dealing with in society than anyone else. So it was hard for us to get this partnership. We cold emailed them. Our CEO cold emailed them saying, we want to help you. We want, you've got this amazing database. We have a platform. And now we've put $100,000 behind this effort so that anytime someone gives a gift, we're actually going to give you a $40 credit so you can go give to any Black-led organization. That is worth celebrating. We're doing something different. When we talk about equity and trying to move capital in different ways, I want to celebrate this about every.org. I want to shout it from the rooftops, right? And funny, we were doing all the steps and it's already launched. And yesterday I realized I haven't sent this out to my friends and family. I hadn't really posted about it. I'm going to do it. And last night I wrote an email, it's in draft form, that I'm going to send to everyone I know to say, this is the kind of change that I actually think matters. But I couldn't have done it unless I was thinking about celebrating. And the reason I was thinking about it was because I knew Thursday was coming. It's my celebration day. So I was like, what can I celebrate? And I realized this is my celebration moment.
If you're a small organization and you don't think that your small wins matter, they matter more than you think. You don't have to have $100,000. We just did this sort of event. No, it is listen, I use a lot of, if you're doing mental wellness, we served over X amount. I work with a group that provides mental health, providing for frontline workers for healthcare, right? So they provide free, underwritten mental health for healthcare workers on the front line.
Wow.
They went from 40 to 50 to over 800 in the matter of 9 months. And they didn't, and they weren't celebrating all of those numbers. Do you know how many other people or other individuals are just unbelievably grateful that that exists or didn't know it exists? So your celebration of what you did opens up like, oh crap, I didn't even think about that. The same way that I don't think a lot of individuals think about Black-led organizations who are frontline in the nonprofit industry. They're like, wait, they don't? All of a sudden, that goes. Also, Jacqueline just actually asked, can you mention the name of that Black-led nonprofit list group again?
Yes, Give Black, but it's BLCK. And if you go to every.org /Black Founders, you'll see the whole portfolio and you'll be able to get the giving credit.
That's awesome. Yes, Jacqueline, go give. This is going to be great.
Yeah,
this is great.
I'm sure, you know what? I'm sure Franny's watching. She'll drop it in the chat.
I love it. That's great.
Franny, I'm giving you a shout out.
Yes. So, thank you, Franny. I appreciate it. But that's what this means. That's what the celebration means, right? If nobody knows about Give Black, if you're not celebrating that win, nobody knows about it, and you've got a platform. You have your own circle that is always talking about the circles even bigger and broader than that, and that's what people want to hear. Now, here's what's going to freak your brain out if you've never thought about this. If you are a non-profit organization and you spend time on social media celebrating other nonprofits that have nothing to do with you in the public square, you're going to make people's heads explode because they're going to, why the hell are you doing this?
Abundance.
Think about this.
It's an abundance mindset. Put more good out into the world. It'll come back.
Think about this. You are going to have new eyeballs on your own organization, not because that's the purpose of it, but because you lifted up somebody to celebrate their wins and their impact in the community. People are going to go, why on earth is this nonprofit celebrating this nonprofit? Holy crap, we should go and get to know who they are, what they do. You'll probably gain followers, probably gain likes, probably gain some new fans, all because you authentically and just positively wanted to reinforce what others are doing in the community.
I couldn't agree more. And you know, the sharing of donor bases in terms of, you know, when somebody talks to me and says, I'm really interested in ed tech, or I'm really interested in women and girls empowerment in the developing world, like when I go and I send someone that direction, it has always come back, right? Because when they go and they get introduced to whomever that major gift officer is or whoever that team is, and they say, how did you hear about this? And they say, I heard about you from Sabrina. I mean, it just, the good that you're spreading and then being in the consciousness of other folks. So then when they think about a water organization or something, why don't you go talk to Sabrina over at Charity Water? I mean, these things actually, they work. They're happening. Yeah. And I think the main thing is coming back to your original concept, the theme of abundance. If you live in it and it's genuine and authentic for you, you will reap the benefit of it, right? Yeah. But if we're only thinking like, well, I did that and then nothing came back, that's not it, you know? Yes. That's not it.
Yes. We're coming to the end of this already, which is just, it is insane to me. And we can't end this without talking about day number 5. It's Friday, and Fridays are for appreciating. Mm-hmm. Listen, as part of your framework in general, if you do not celebrate, great. Okay, we can get away with it. If you don't appreciate, you're in the wrong business. If you don't say thank you for a gift, you're probably not going to get another gift. That's the basics of the basics. You have to say thank you if somebody gives you money. That's great. If you are thanking people for things other than the checkbook that they wrote for your organization, if you are grateful for their time, if you are grateful for their talent, if you're grateful for their perspective that they've given you and your organization, if you are grateful for what Sabrina was talking about, which is this sort of this abundance of currency that is not monetary, right? If you are grateful for those things and you live in a you're not catering to like, you know, you're not saying thank you for the sake of, I hope I get money. You're genuinely appreciative of someone's leadership within the community, and you're genuinely appreciative of an organization or what somebody has done for you or what they have done for the community, that is the ultimate power move you can make as a small nonprofit, and it's the ultimate move of abundance. And if you live in that environment and you spend time every Friday writing thank you notes and thank you calls and just spending some time dedicating your day to appreciating, when you come circle back on Monday and you're trying to plan your week, and the last thing that people remember about you is a voicemail, an email, a handwritten thank you note for something that was not on their radar at all, that you didn't think that they'd be paying attention to or whatever, how more likely are they to pick up your call or answer you or set up a meeting knowing that you are genuinely appreciative of their roles in whatever that capacity may be, as a business owner, as a donor, as a supporter, volunteer, community member, whatever. That's, you end that. That's how this works, and that's how abundant your brain needs to be, is living in this gratitude world, not only being lucky enough to do the work that you're doing, but being grateful for people participating in other roles as well.
Something I used to do when I was like in full fundraising mode, I would go through Instagram and I'd look, throughout the week at photos from my supporters and donors, and I'd comment my gratitude, because again, people don't usually get public thanks. So being able to see like a beautiful picture of somebody and their family and just saying, this is just like, brightens my day, but also knowing that you support our work brightens my day. Thank you. And putting it in those comments. That's like another form of thanks that is unique. You can DM them, right? When you think about like handwriting, everybody loves the mail, by the way. And we should all in our line of work be doing the handwritten thank you.
Yes.
But there are other ways too that I think, especially, if this younger generation is tuning in and they're like, I haven't written anything. They didn't even teach me how to do cursive anymore, right? Like, you guys are so old.
So old.
Use your creativity. LinkedIn, right? Like, say thank you on LinkedIn so that their colleagues can see what they do for the world. These are ways in which, you can also go from private to public that has a different resonance with people.
Yeah. If you're listening and you've got your cell phones out, and I know you do, this is an exercise that I do with my clients and for presentations when I get to do this, is open your inbox for your text messages. And do it right now. You're listening. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not going to chide you for using your phone right now. Go to your inbox and go to the 20th person on your list. Just scroll randomly down about 20. Okay? I want you to, and everybody listening can do this right now, and you should, because this is something that is going to be unique and different and interesting and completely random, is I want you to send a genuine note of appreciation to that person for whatever you want to, okay? Get in your phone, write this, text it, take 2 seconds, and say thank you for, hey, being a friend. I want to thank you for helping me with this. I want to thank you for just being you. I want to thank you for what you did in the community. Write a random note. Now, 2 things are going to happen. One, they're going to think, oh God, is everything okay, right? And that, first of all, that's sad, because that means we aren't doing this enough in the first place, right? They don't expect it. But the second one is, they're going to feel so good about you reaching out and talking about or appreciating some random thing that they're probably going to be motivated to, A, say thanks back. So you're going to get a thank you for your thank you, which is now we're in this meta matrix world of people being grateful for being grateful or being great, I don't know, whatever that is. Or they're going to be inspired to do the exact same thing for you. And they're on your behalf, they're going to say thank you, or they're going to say thank you back. And now you've got like, oh yeah, I feel good about myself. But they're going to go tell other people about how grateful they are. You're now starting a watershed moment of gratitude through a simple text message. So you don't have to write the handwritten thank you notes if you forgot how to do that. If you don't have a stack of thank you cards, which you should, send a text message. But this sort of brain mindset, this abundance mindset of showing gratitude to everybody in random order, is how you're going to differentiate yourself between you and everybody else in the nonprofit world. Sabrina, I'm curious, who is your 20th person, by the way?
Oh my gosh, this is the best exercise. I'm going to do it every Friday.
Do it.
It's an incredible man named Arturo de la Fuente, and he's actually like a talent agent, a sports agent, who has decided to actually give his career a refresh, and he is building a sustainable community in the Dominican Republic. And he's he's making this a much more challenging life path for himself, but he's incredible. And so me being able to send this note is like so nice for me.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. And can I talk about something here that you and I talked about before, which is this group of people who's on this call. When you do these kinds of appreciations, one of the things that you don't realize that you're doing is you're building your invisible team. So if you guys haven't read Simon Sinek's new book about the infinite game, I think this really relays back to this concept of abundance. But one of the things he and Brene Brown talked about is that there are people who are on your invisible team, people that you might not talk to all the time, people that you care deeply about and you would do anything for, and they would do a lot for you, even if you're not that close. And one of the things that I think I've realized over the last, I would say 7 or 8 years in folks who have become donors to causes that I've worked for is that because we go this extra mile, a lot of those folks are now on my invisible team. And when I've made transitions into, other roles or motherhood or so forth, like going back to those folks and being able to talk to them has meant so much to me, but it's also done quite a bit for, the new causes that I work for. And so thinking about doing this, not necessarily because it's going to have the immediate effect that you need, it will in the long run, but they also become part of your invisible team. And that's really nice in the world. It makes you actually feel more abundant, makes you feel, more positive about the world, knowing that there are people like this out there.
I would be remiss if I didn't let everybody know who is on this today on the opportunity. Not only do they have an invisible, but a visible team at every.org that is helping us, stream this wonderful broadcast. So thank you very much. But I'd love to talk a little bit about how to use and leverage this technology. If you are new to the nonprofit world, if you're a small, medium-sized nonprofit and you don't think that you can spend a ton of money on a system that allows you to gather donations, this has been one of the most remarkable entities that I have stumbled upon in a long time. Thank you, Fran, for connecting me to everything. This is great. But talk to me a little bit about every.org. How did this come about? And how did nonprofits connect here in both invisible and visible connections to kind of build this almost social network of awesomeness within a nonprofit?
Okay, so this platform was built by 4 co-founders. They met at the Stanford dorms. They're all technologists who have decided that they're going to dedicate their intellect and their career to not just helping one nonprofit, but literally helping the entire sector get better at fundraising, but also help the individual donor have a joyful giving experience. So think about us this way. We are a social network for giving. Anybody can join the platform. There are over 1.4 million nonprofits on our platform. So if you search by cause, or if you search by name of a nonprofit, or if you search by zip code, you can basically find nonprofits information and you can donate directly to them. We never take a cut out of any gift, and we don't charge a fee to use the platform. Now, there's credit card fees, so we recommend that you connect with your bank account. And what we're doing here is we're building a community of people who want to give, and we're also trying to help them connect to different kinds of information around giving. So, for instance, we've partnered with Founders Pledge, which generally goes and gives its expertise over to, elite philanthropists. They're going and saying, here are the highest impact funding opportunities in climate change. We've actually partnered with them. We've brought their portfolio over to our to our platform. And now anybody can access that research and expertise. How can we make giving, more joyful, more interesting for folks? And how can we introduce people to new causes based on your giving history? So if you're a nonprofit on our platform, you can go and claim your profile, make it more beautiful. Right now, it's basically what the IRS database provides. If you come and you claim your profile, very simple, you can then, build it out, change out the pictures if you want, put more information, and then you can actually become an admin, and then you'll be able to see all the gifts that are being given to you, right? There's a great little dashboard for nonprofits. And the idea is you can just do that, or you can take it a step further, and you can very easily start directing people to giving, either by using our credit. So one of the things that happens right now is that anytime somebody joins the platform and invites a friend, that friend gets a giving credit. They get $25 to give to any nonprofit. And the reason we did that is because we learned that people love choice. So this whole one-to-one matching thing that we're also accustomed to, it only works because we generally operate in a silo as a nonprofit. But what we learned, we did a really interesting experiment with Tim Ferriss, is that if I say I care about the Asian Women's Fund, would you give a gift? If I did that and said I'll match the gift, okay, people will give. If I say give and then I'll give you $25 to give to any organization you care about, 86% more donors gave, 97% more dollars raised. But here's what was fascinating. 70% of the credit still went back to the Asian Women's Network. So here's the thing. If you come and you want to use our platform for that, you can raise quite a few dollars. That presupposes you want to do the social component. You want to post. You want to help drive people to giving via every.org. So that's all free, and you don't really have to do anything. Now, if you want something to help you have a better donation experience on your website, we actually have an embeddable donate button that will help you embed for free, that is probably far more beautiful and far less expensive than what you're doing today. At the moment, it doesn't connect to your CRM, but you can, like I said, download all of the donation information. People are asking, what's the catch? Why is it free? And it's free because when you use our site, you become a part of a collective research effort where we're taking those learnings and we're applying them to the entire sector so that all boats rise. We're funded by philanthropists, so there isn't any financial gain in it for us. But we are really trying to say, rather than going at it alone, one nonprofit at a time, we can go at this at volume, and we can run tests and do experiments that most nonprofits don't have, the volume of donors to do. And when I come back to this recurring gift piece, our goal is how do we help all nonprofits get more recurring giving so they can become more sustainable and focus more on their missions. And the way that we've been learning about this is, guys, if we can leave you with one thing that from every.org, make monthly giving more prominent on your donation site. We did this just by making monthly giving more prominent. We got 53% more donations to monthly giving because of this. 53%. So that's a little bit about how to use us, if you want to work with us. And we will partner with any nonprofit. We're really excited about this. This is our mission, to help all nonprofits do more good.
If you didn't have the nice bookends of abundance, that is the ultimate, right? It's the rising tide helps all ships bit. It is, listen, we are doing this because this matters for everybody. We're going to help with the research that helps give people the tips and tricks on how to do that. Check the chat. Tina's been wonderful to sort of put all the support stuff and the FAQs in there. So thank you so much, Tina, for working on that one. That's it. That is your framework. It is Mondays are planning, and Tuesdays are doing, and Wednesdays are for documenting, and Thursdays are for celebrating, and Fridays are for appreciating. And if you have that abundance mindset saying that, listen, we can achieve big, giant, hairy, audacious goals, but we got to put ourselves in the right brain and build a framework around that, use every.org, and you get to go leverage all those things, and it's just fantastic. Sabrina, I could say thank you, but it wouldn't be enough. I'm clearly going to go find something Fargonian to send you as a thank you gift for your time today, for us leveraging your wonderful organization to stream this on. Sneak preview, by the way, in July, we're doing our Do-Gooders Conference, which is going to be live from Fargo. We're going to stream the entire thing through here. So more to come on that, everybody. And this was kind of a really fun way to test this. more so, this was so fun and refreshing, I think, for nonprofits who are small and medium-sized, who can get a better perspective on what they can do and the amount of good that they can do if they just leverage some of those little things in the back of your brain that you know you've got. That's that abundance thing. Get rid of that scarcity mindset. It'd be great. Thank you for your time and your perspective and your energy. All of the number of currency of abundances that you gave today is ridiculous. Kudos to all of you, by the way, because we eclipsed our $1,000. I have not had time to reach into my wallet to go give mine. So I'm going to go do that. If you have a couple of seconds, go and like National Asian Pacific Women's American Women's Forum. Go fund them. $5, $10, $20, $100, $1,000, whatever it is. Go give. So kudos to you for helping out there. Thanks to our team. Can we do one more round for our team here? Let's shoot back there. Friends, it's so dark. Yes. Thanks to our friends at Mobile Pro who have been helping us put this on. I'm hoping we can probably come back and do a couple more of these trainings. I feel like this is good. I feel this is like a start of some fun things that we're going to do together. It'd be great.
And we're writing a book. We're going to write a book.
We're going to write a book together. We already determined that earlier on. This is going to be great. Thank you very much. You're the best. Any closing thoughts that you have for all of our guests? And then thank you for everybody who showed up today, too.
That they can use this, what we just did, this streaming is free on every.org, too. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, so it's free to nonprofits if you need a streaming platform.
It's all inclusive. I love this. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. Thanks for joining us. We'll launch the replay. We'll let you know about that so you can send it to all your friends because they probably have FOMO for missing out today. If you need anything else, let us know. Drop it in the comments. We'll keep these open for a little bit, and then go give generously from all of us here at the Do Good Better. Well, it's Mobile Pro Studios, but I'm taking it over for the day. Do Good Better. Thank you for joining us, Sabrina. Thank you so much for being awesome. You're the best, and we'll see you next time. Woo!